Welcome to the session ArcGIS Experience Builder Best Practices for Building Exciting Apps. My name is Michael Geig, and I'm here today with my colleague, Kei Xu. Actually, the session should really be called Practices for Building Exciting Apps, because best practices kind of shows you that there are maybe poor practices that are acceptable, but they are not acceptable. So let's talk about practices. Just a quick reminder, there is an application where you can leave feedback. Please give us thumbs up. You're not going to hurt my feeling. Give us lots of good feedback so I get a big raise so I can buy shoes for my children. So obviously, I'm coming from a design background. I lead the app and map design team in our professional services division. I'm also the lead of the UI UX Tech Center. So design is ingrained inside of me, and that's what I want to teach you here today. We are not going to talk about express mode, so we're really diving into the application. And we start by talking about common problems that I see on a daily basis. We talk a little bit about what kind of templates you can use based on the layouts you want to create. And then we dive into some demos to teach you essential skills that you need to build exciting apps, such as layouts, sizing, positioning, branding, and mobile. My colleague, Kei, will then introduce you to some really exciting new features that just have been released, such as dynamic style in Arcade, and give you some performance tips. And towards the end, we're going to take questions from the audience, but also from the people online. So thank you very much for joining the live stream if you're on. As you know, there is a book that just got released. It's called Top 20 Essential Skills for ArcGIS Experience Builder. You can purchase it at the Esri store. There will also be a signing. We have Alex here. She will help with the online responses. She's one of the authors, and yours truly will be there too. I do have free posters, so if after the session you want to walk up here, you get some free posters, or you can see us at 11:30 at the signing. We have plenty of posters, or you come to the Experience Builder booth in the expo hall. So let's dive in. Design is obviously the foundation for exciting apps. And I have a little challenge for you, a little competizione, okay? So I've created an application that I'm going to show you, and I will see if you can spot the problems. And I give you a little bit of time to just digest what's going on here. And think about what this is, if it makes sense to you. And you don't have to tell me right now, just take mental notes of what's going on. Here's the application. What is it about? What do you see on screen? Let me open one of the tools here. There's a near me tool, a print tool. We have a draw tool. All right, I see a lot of blanks there. So, did you spot the problems? If not, thank you. If not, there is something that I call the pyramid of ignorance. So at the bottom, there's a lot of people, and no blame or finger pointing, they just don't know that we have a problem. They just don't see it. And that's fine. It's like my kids, they walk around the house and they don't see that there's problems, right? So then maybe I come in and I tell them that they have a problem. Great. Now they know they have a problem, but they don't know how to fix it, right? Where do we need to put this trash? Oh, bring it to the trash can. Well, I'm showing you maybe in terms of application, okay, here are the issues that I see with the application, but throughout the session, I hope that you learn identifying those problems and that you actually understand how to also solve them. But then once you reach the top of the pyramid, it's on you. Right? If you still don't do it, shame on you, okay? There's good reasons why you wouldn't. Right? Maybe you don't have time or money. Maybe your boss asks you to do something, and it's really hard to say no to your boss, right? Maybe you have shown the application to somebody already, maybe to the stakeholders, and they really like it, and now it's really tough to go up to them and say, I kind of changed my mind. So there's reasons why maybe you wouldn't want to, but you still should. In my opinion, there are no excuses. So there's different types of problems. Conceptual, so let's look at this splash page that you see here. Why do we have a splash page? Why do we have a splash page in the first page, in the first place? Sometimes there are really good reasons to add a splash page. Maybe there's a mandate, a legal mandate that you have to show a message up front. Why is there a dog? Well, answer is easy. Somebody has told me that any successful application must show a cute dog in order to be successful. So that's on me. What about visual? There's some inconsistent margins. Okay, maybe you think no big deal, but overall, all those little things will make, we call them the broken windows theorem, right? Will make the house look ugly. In usability terms, there's no close button. Would you have known that you can click outside the window to dismiss this window? Maybe you figured it out, but it's a usability problem. And there's lots of tiny text, so for everybody in the back row, so for me that is maybe an older gentleman, yes, I realized. And there's functional problems. In this case, there's a typo. Again, maybe not a big deal, but overall it will make the application look ugly. What about this big application here? What are the conceptual problems here? There's filters in multiple places. Why? And do those filters actually even make sense? We have two searches. Are they different? We have an advanced viewer button. Why do we have an advanced viewer? And that doesn't even look like a button. In terms of visual problems, the first question I always have is, are we using brand colors? You must use brand colors. If you don't know your brand colors, you ask your design team to give you the brand colors. The header, does it use, is this bluish color brand? The buttons, are those brand colors? And we'll talk later about how to apply those brand colors. The spacing is off. The title isn't aligned vertically perfectly. I'm a pixel pusher, so sorry, totally makes me mad. The list, we go through a list in a little detail later on, is kind of off. The font sizes don't quite fit. Do we need all those borders? It kind of makes this page feel heavy. What about the map? My friends, and I don't know if you've seen the presentation earlier on, obviously a tough act to even follow, but they talked a lot about cartography. Right? They would probably call this map a measle map. What are those dots on the map here? What is it? In terms of usability, those buttons that are kind of hidden over there, are they important? This near me? What are those things here? Do we need them? Can we get rid of them? What is this button for? More information. Why is it red? It shouts at me, click me and I'm going to lead the application. And then all those fields in the details. I think we can do better, right? In terms of functional problems, we need to ask questions. What happens when I click on this list item? Can I close those panels? So those are things that we need to understand and question and also figure out how will users interact with this application. So I know it's very tempting to open the builder and just drag and drop all the functionality onto the canvas that you need, and you call it a day and you're done. But that's not how it works. You really have to take a step down, and you have to start learning and planning for a great experience. I call it having a discovery mindset. So you need to understand who your users are and understand what the jobs to be done they have to accomplish. Then you look into the data, and in many cases you don't have good data, or there's gaps or holes in the data, but without data you really cannot design. So in these cases, you need to create your own mock data, and maybe that actually helps somebody else to come up with the data and fill those holes. Then once all this is done, you go into the design phase. Sometimes we call this the art of the possible. You start prototyping, where you get your brand colors in, and then you think about your users, their tasks to be done, and how you can translate them into a workflow inside of your application that makes sense. So you want to align those two. And then you work on a web map with hopefully the data that you have. You configure the pop-ups, you create nice layer lists with meaningful names. Maybe you need to group those layers, you create your bookmarks, and then you bring everything into Experience Builder, and you start connecting those nice widgets, create actions and views of your data. Common problems that I see during design is having a solution mindset. You come into the room with a solution. We're having problems at this intersection. Can you design a stop sign? That's the solution. So what you should do is you should ask the question, can you describe what the ideal outcome should look like? And I said, ideal outcome would be that there's no crashes, people don't even have to stop, maybe they can flow somehow. Okay, you get the point. Try to always question requirements. Ask, why do we need this? How does this serve the purpose of the application? Why do we need this in this application? And then try to stay open-minded. Leave your biases aside. Anchoring bias means that you get stuck with the first idea that comes to mind, and then confirmation bias means that whatever happens, you try to confirm that your first idea actually works. But we all know that first ideas are seldomly the best ideas. So throughout the process, stay open-minded. And not understanding their users is a big, big issue. And it's okay to make assumptions about our users, but we need to understand that those are assumptions. Since I'm talking about users already, there's 4 personas that I come across most of the time. Personas are people that have similar tasks they need to accomplish. There's the analyst that needs to complete comprehensive and analytical tools. There's the executive that requires strategic performance indicators. The subject matter expert that needs detailed and in-depth analysis. And then there's the, you see me making my air quotes, the public that needs relevant and specific answers. So in our case, I already have a feeling that the application we're building here is for the public. So let's keep that in mind. Each of those personas, they need a very specific application. And as you can see, I often get a question, when should I use dashboards or Experience Builder? Well, a dashboard, an ArcGIS dashboard, is great for executives. So the analyst comes in, understands the data, prepares the data, rolls it up into a dashboard. The executive comes in, makes decisions based on the data, disappears, very few interactions. Based on the application type and the users, there's very specific layouts that you can use. And there's really 3 layouts: full map, partial map, and reference map. So please allow me to go to the next slide and introduce those layouts. I will come back to those personas in just a bit. So the full map layout is a layout where the map is the main focus. Map is super important. It's great for spatial analysis and advanced GIS functionality. The partial map layout is a layout where the map is side by side with the content. Very popular, one of my favorites. It supports workflows and tools that should not overlap the map. So you stick all those workflows in the left panel, you have the map to interact with whatever workflows you present. The reference map is a layout where the map is complementary to the other tools. And it's useful, obviously, for providing spatial context without being the focus. So now let's relate it back to our personas. As you can see, on the left-hand side, the analyst is really map-focused, GIS savvy. They know the ins and outs, and that's what they need. They will spend a lot of time in your application. Then the public and the SME, they will probably work in this partial map layout, maybe sometimes a little bit full map, but especially for the public, we also need mobile. And then the executive really needs these dashboard layouts. We call them reference maps. So next, I want to give credit to my friends and colleagues in Esri Canada, Jonathan van Dusen and Jim Curran. They have spent a lot of time going through all the templates that exist in Experience Builder and map those templates onto those layouts. So in the future, if you ever build an application that matches any of those 3 layouts, then you can use this as a cheat sheet to look up the right template. They are grouped into 3 categories: general purpose, those are the white ones; moderately specialized, Those are the yellow ones. And highly specialized. Those are the blue ones. Okay, I see lots of cell phones coming up. You're taking pictures. The slides will be available to you afterwards. You can download them. If you like a slide, you can also go, ooh, ah. You want to try that real quick? Okay. So I will show you the templates, and you say, ooh, ah, okay. Ooh. Yes, excellent. Good. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Warms my heart. All right, so let's redesign this application. First question, remember, what are we assuming about our users? Remember, it's probably for the public. I know the public. Would my mom use it? Find funny places in San Diego for my mom probably means something else than for my kids, right? So we should probably be a little more specific for our exercise here. Good enough, right? So the public user wants relevant and specific answers. It has to be quickly. That's what the workflow needs to support. We also know that this user is probably not GIS savvy. So forget about any of those advanced tools. Now, my next question, can you describe what the ideal outcome should look like? Show me fun stuff I might be interested and is around me. Interesting. Okay, so probably some sort of search tool or near me, right? Okay, interesting. So what does all this mean for our application? Well, first of all, it means it needs to be workflow-driven. Tell me your location, list nearby places, and then show the details. Go off and enjoy your day, right? And the other thing we know is that it's for the public, so we probably are good with a partial map layout. So let's go back to our application here and see if we can find those elements that we just identified. Here's the search, there's the near me, there's the list, and over there is the details. I think we can do better, right? Now that we've established what the workflow should be. And I'm thinking, let's create, there's lots of stuff that probably we can even yank out. Okay, let's keep that in mind too. So let's try to create some wireframes. I have a blank canvas. I'm thinking, how about we add a header? In the header, we can have a search box. Probably I want to have that in the top left corner because that's really important. I know everybody wants to see the logo and the title and everything, and it's super important. Not for me, title goes to the center. And then the remaining canvas is really divided into the list of the fun things, the map, and the details, which is a feature info widget. And because we have a partial map layout, I actually want to, that the map takes up the remaining space, and I put the details on top. And maybe I even make it dynamic, so when they click on the map, it slides out, and then I have a button to close it. All right, let's talk about a little bit about layouts. Often I get questions, how can I get started with this experience builder? And so if there's one tip I can give you on your way is learn, get used to using layout widgets. Layout widgets are your best friend. As soon as you have more than one widget, you need to create or use layout widgets to relate them to each other because the widgets themselves, they have no awareness of each other's position. Fixed panel is great. It's a simple container where you can place widgets anywhere. By the way, a map is a fixed panel. Sidebar looks very useful for our use case. Okay, let's keep that in mind. It's where you have two panels next to each other, and the panels can be collapsible. You can actually remove this collapsible. I bet somebody will come back later and say, hey, can you make this collapsible? Then you're the hero. Grid, I don't really use grid too much. Section is super useful to create tabs in conjunction with a fuse navigation. So you have those panels that overlap. Row is a container to organize content horizontally. It's nice because it has this 12-column grid system where you can distribute those widgets evenly. Flow row, it's a new layout container similar to the row, but it honors the content of each widget, and it wouldn't squish them as the browser window changes. Column is similar to a flow row, but vertically, and then there's also accordion. All right, so looking back to our application, I actually realized that whoever did this application, well, I did it, used a row to lay out the widgets. So you had fun things, map, and details. Now you can tell me, okay, Mike, there are so many different ways of doing it. How would I know what the right way of doing it is? Well, first, because I tell you, but secondly, whenever you see that something starts overlapping or cropping, then you're probably either not using layout widgets or using the wrong layout widget. So in this case, if the browser window shrinks and the list shrinks, and you see lots of overlapping labels and maybe images. So a better way of doing it would be to use a sidebar. In the sidebar, on the left-hand side, I want to add my tabs. The tabs, they have a fuse navigation and a section. And remember, as soon as you have 2 or more widgets, you need another container. So let's add a column. Inside the column, we add our tabs and a section. On the right-hand side, and yeah, then we add the list in here. On the right-hand side, we add another sidebar. Yes, you can do that. I do that all the time. Just make sure that you actually name those sidebars something meaningful. You can identify them later. There we have the map. And then on the right-hand side, again, we have 2 widgets, so we need another column. And here we have our feature info, details, and the close button. Okay, amazing. Let's actually get into doing it. Okay, I have this application. There was the original application, but I've already rebuilt it for you with the correct containers. As you can see on the left-hand side, we have our panels. I call them left panel, right panel to identify which ones are going where. The first thing I always do is I look at the header. 50 pixels, no good, okay? You want to always use multiples or fractions of 16 pixels. So in this case, I like to use 80. You say, Mike, why 16? Because 16 pixels is the base size on the web. 1 REM is your base font size. So anything that is multiples or fractions of 16 will automatically look good, right? So as you can see, in your header, those elements are not positioned correctly. Here, percentages is actually very tricky, right? Because 25% of something large is a lot. But if we fix them to pixels, we know that it's always 320 pixels. It will never change. Same here. Let's just position it 32 pixels from the left, again, multiples of 16, and then align them vertically center. So regardless of how tall your header is, it's always perfectly centered. I also like rounded corners. Perfect. Let's do the same with our text. Let's center them real quick. Here's a quick note on the text. You really, for titles, should not use heading 2. That's against accessibility best practices. You should have heading 1. And if it's too big, just change the font size. Okay? On the left-hand side, it looks a little crowded. So what we can do is we can just add paddings to all the sides. And again, as you can see, I use pixels, never percentages. Percentages is all root of evil for overlaps. You will thank me later. The column should have a gap of 16, not 10. And then our fuse navigation, when you go to advanced, should really have a font size of 16. Okay, I actually like the pills. Okay, and I have to go in and do it again. All right. So now for our list, let's just look at the list real quick. The arrangement is 110. I know that 112 is a multiple of 16. I like that better. The vertical spacing is 4. I like that better. And then in our states, let's remove those borders to make it cleaner. Add a little border radius. I like border radiuses. Lately, that's kind of something I enjoy. And as you can look at the list now, way cleaner. Just some simple changes. Let's look at the content itself for this list. So let's select this image. We know that the height of the card is 112. So how about we make the width of the card 112? Nice. Okay, here we have a description that is in a different element than the title. I kind of don't like that. Let's just combine both of them and then remove this. The reason why I combine them is so they wrap nicely. So if the title starts wrapping, then the content underneath wraps. As you can see, it's kind of cropped. Why is it cropped? Yes, percentages, right? So in this case, we can set it to auto or stretch. The reason why I set it to stretch is because I want to position it towards the top and bottom and even right. And then all I need to do is I need to adjust the left. So it will always be perfect. The side panel never shrinks. The cards always look nice. Let's look at the map real quick. There's a couple of tools that we can probably remove. Let's remove the search and the layers. Let's look at the right-hand panel. Okay, there's already a nice little border around. That's good. Here's actually a pro tip. If you select something, in this case I selected the map, but I actually meant to select the sidebar that the map is in. You can go to the bottom, and there's breadcrumbs, and you just select the breadcrumbs, and we'll select the correct element. So now here we see that this sidebar has an option to overlay. Great. So now we overlay the panel. We don't need this collapse button anymore because we have a close button. We don't need the divider. And that already looks nicely, right? So let's select the column of the sidebar. Let's go into Style, add a nice little border. Since it's floating on top of the map, how about we do a little drop shadow? And then the close button, guess what? We actually want it to close, so when we click the button, the right panel should toggle, so it will close, right? So if I look at the application right now, nice. All right, let's talk UR. Yes, perfect, good, nice. So let's switch over to styling. Okay. All right, so the header itself, let's look at the header real quick. The header has a fill of some random color. The reason I know this is a random color is because it's not using any of the theme colors. Let me explain you the theme colors real quick. The first column is your brand color. The second column is your secondary color. It's not used anywhere, but you can set it and then use it throughout the application. The third column is used for backgrounds, and the fourth column is used for text. All right? The other columns, forget it. And the standard colors, you can use white and black, even though probably you shouldn't. But if you're really sure you want, you can. And then recent are the recent colors. Okay, let's set the background to our theme color. And then okay, let me actually switch over to the next application here. So let's change the background to the theme color. And the text, let's use our light color, which is nice because if I go to the Themes tab, I can change between the pre-existing themes. Right now, the default theme is selected. But if I go to the dark theme, you see how the background changed and the text changed and the remainder of the application changed. There's 3 more themes. I never really use them. And then there's the organization shared theme. So if you go to ArcGIS Online and you modify as an admin the brand colors of an organization and you select them, then those colors will be used. They cannot be customized. You have to go to ArcGIS Online to change them. But let me show you real quick how to customize the default theme here. We go to Advanced Color Settings. As you can see, I don't have brand colors, but I went online and I found this nice, cute, and cool summer splash theme, so I'm going to use those colors. So the brand color here is 05445E, so that's the hex color code for this 05445E. Let's actually click somewhere to apply it. Then here you could put another one. And then the background color, I just happen to have this baby blue over here, which is a really nice light color. So how about we use that as the background color, and we can type that into our third column. And now it's applied, for example, to the panel on the left-hand side. Okay, let's come back in here. So instead of using a white color, we could use this baby blue that we have applied. And now it's showing up in baby blue, right? So the same thing in our list here, maybe we just apply our dark theme color, okay? The nice thing here is that now everything looks harmonious. It's on brand. Okay, one thing that I wanted to show you is that the search should really do something for us, right? Actually, let's do something else first. Let's remove this, and let's change the map. Map, super important. I happen to have a really cool map that I created. I thought because we want to be fun, we create a map that uses the watercolor base map, so it already looks better. And as you can see, I changed the symbology of the map as well to, instead of using those measles, have nice little icons that even show the type of cool place that exists. All right, so do you remember this little splash screen that came up where I told you I really don't like it, and I promise you your users won't like it either? There's actually one way you can go get around this. It's called a landing page. It's very easy to create a landing page. You just create a blank scrolling page. You go and use the Seeker with template that's available to you, and that would be your landing page. You can add a title, you can even put your little disclaimer, and then a search box and other things. So I actually prepared this landing page, I worked a little bit on it, and as you can see, it's on brand, it shows you featured attractions, all the buttons look the way we want them to be. But I think we can do better. Guess what? If instead of this blue background, we add a nice little photo that even shows some fun stuff in San Diego, that looks like ooh, ah, right? And then what if instead of the picture, we add a little embed widget with a nice little video, then this is ooh, ah. Yeah? And then from here, we can go to the map. We can also connect the search to, instead of showing search results, set a link, and in this case, the link would go to a page, which is our map page, and then somebody that searches will use the search to go to the map page and zoom to the map to the displays. So let's look at the map page real quick. Let's see if the search is configured correctly. So one thing that I wanted to do here is, let's see if use your location works. It actually found something. You see what it did? I put my cursor in the search, I clicked on my location, it identified convention center, it automatically selected the first result, it toggled, it used this location to set the location of the Near Me widget. So that's why the Near Me widget ran with this location, and it toggled the section layout to open a view of the nearby, because I happen to be on the Explore tab. So it toggled to the Nearby tab, it ran this analysis, and it shows me what's nearby. And all I need to do is now, I click on one of those things, and I see what's behind it, and off I go. Okay, nice, but how will this look on mobile devices? Let's switch over and take a look. No good, no bueno, okay? So there's really, I think the first strategy you should apply when you think about mobile is when you design your desktop, finish your desktop, and then take care of mobile. While you work on desktop, think about how mobile can look like. If there's any way you can optimize mobile in a way that it just works with auto layout. Okay, right now, this is auto layout. If it doesn't work, you have to switch over to custom. As soon as you switch over to custom, you sign your life away, you're on your own. Okay, you disconnect desktop from mobile, you have to build two separate applications. And guess what? You cannot actually just modify things. No, you have to first send those things, those widgets, to the pending list, and then pull in a new widget. Otherwise, it happens on both sides. Okay, so in this case, what you would do is you would move the search to the pending list, and now you could drag another search, or here's a little pro tip, you can actually Control-C, Control-V, and you have the same thing. You can do that with the list too. So you don't have to reconfigure, restyle the whole list. You can Control-C, Control-V, and it gets around this little limitation here. Okay, let's look at the mobile page, and I want to give you some ideas for how you could redesign this mobile layout. My first take on this whole thing was, obviously I disconnected, I went to custom, I felt mighty and I did it. And I created these tabs at the bottom, which looks really mobile. I kind of removed this functionality to sketch. I didn't see too much sense in it. But now it works, right? I have my near me, and I have my list and my map. But then I thought, like, what if instead of having a column with a section, with a row, with a fuse navigation, I simplify it to create one outer container, which is a column. Inside, I have a section. In this section, I really have the list view and the map view. The other two tools will never be visible, even though I will use the nearby widget behind the scenes, right? And then on top of the list view, I have a fixed panel with my list and the button to toggle to the map, right? And on the map panel, I have a button that says Show List. So on my map view, I have my map, and there's my button to toggle back. And then if I click on one of those items, it goes to the map. So I'm using an action on the list to zoom the map to this object, and I toggle the mobile container, which is the section, to open the view of the map. To me, that's a really nice mobile application. And as you can see, on desktop, I get more. On mobile, it's more focused. All right, so, well, that's all I had. I'm going to hand over now to my colleague, Kay, who can talk about new features that are available in the June 2025 release.
Okay. Thanks, Matt. Support for authoring dynamic style and arcade is a new feature we added last month in ArcGIS online release. Now let's have a look at it.
Laptop on the side.
Dynamic style. Dynamic style lets you visually adapt your widgets based on data. This includes changing appearance such as text size, background color, border styles based on field values, statistics, and calculated logic. Currently, dynamic styles are supported in text widget, button widget, and list widget. The dynamic style option becomes available in widgets when you connect it to data and then turn on dynamic style. Widgets support two ways to define dynamic style. The first is conditional style. It doesn't need us to use coding. It is a no-code solution for visually assigning styles based on simple conditions. You see this. When we use conditional style, we use a field, it's a capital, and when the value is Y, we fill a color, and when the value is N, we fill another color. So it is displayed in the widget like this. And another way is arcade script. It is for advanced users who want full control and flexibility. So, what is arcade? Arcade is a portable, lightweight, and secure expression languages. If you want, like other expression language, it can perform mathematical calculations, format text, and evaluate logic statements. In Express Builder, we can use Arcade, accept style dynamic content, and we can use it in Arcade data and create dynamic content. Let's see it. You can use Arcade generated feature layers as data source in your app, enabling you to enhance existing data with custom logic. When adding data use Arcade, the return tab must be a feature set. Let's see the code here, where FS we use feature set. You can also edit Arcade description after you adding the data. For performance and stability reasons, a maximum of 100 features can be returned in the return feature set. Feature layers created in this way function just like those added in other methods. You can configure data views, enable auto-refresh, and set up export options. Now, let's see the dynamic content use Arcade. Dynamic content is content that changes based on data and user interactions. Arcade allows you to calculate and return dynamic values to display as widget content. Instead of adding content directly to a field or a statistic, you can write expressions that compute values based on logic, conditions, and functions. Experience Builder supports using dynamic content in the following ways. The first is creating text content, including button text here. There is a button here. And we can set in image sources. It is here. And we can also set links by URL. The returned value tab are as follows: text, number, date, date only, and time only. When we are using Arcade, there are some usage notes here. The first is Arcade scripts in Experience Builder only supports feature layer, oriented image layer, subtab group layer, and subtab sublayer. Each app page supports a maximum of 10 Arcade expressions using the widget formatting, including both dynamic content and dynamic style set by Arcade script. If you use an aggregation value in multiple places, such as you want to use it in the list, text, and the button, you can use Arcade option in the Add Data to add it once and use it anywhere. Filter and spatial filters applied to data source or data views cannot be automatically added to data source, so we need to use getFilteredFeatureSet function to synchronize the filter. For the list widget to format style, when you run or apply an Arcade script, it uses the first list item to test the script. There are some sample Arcade script here. We can use it pretty date. If a date includes date and time, if we want only use to date, we can use the function date only to return it. We can also display a message based on the condition. We can use if. We can also shorten long text in a list widget. It will display dynamically, and we don't need to change the values of the data. Okay, there is another sample that dynamic display different images. Here is the sample code. If the level is between 5 and 6, when input 5, it will return this picture. Otherwise, it will return another picture. Also, we can use ArcGIS dynamically display interval values. This is an earthquake magnitude field. We need to read first, and when the level is between 5 and 6, it will return the green color. We can also use it in the list widget to display the cars with different colors. Okay, at last, let me show some performance tips. We have been optimizing the performance of Experience Builder. Over the past year, we have made some optimizations. We do optimize image loading, minimize widget-heavy app loading delays. We also improve building app opening performance, and so on. Here, there are some tips for everyone that can help with optimization, which are things we need to pay attention to when creating apps. First, we need to make the map effective. If the layer contains amount of points, it is better to limit large point layers to high zoom levels. We can also consider binding points into hexabins for smaller scales. When there are a lot of layers, display amount of features, it's better to filter features by tab, major tab at small scales, and all at large scales. We can also publish a tail layer from feature layers for small scale data, including pop-ups. Here is a link about ArcGIS Pro. It can tell us how to make a map effective. There are more information in this link. In the June 2025 release of ArcGIS Online, we add an automatic option to scene quality mode by default. It can increase the app, freeze, or crash. With this mode, scene quality is low for all browsers on iPhones and medium for any other browsers. When encountering performance issues, we can try to use the Firefox browser to troubleshoot issues, because during previous tests with largest amounts of data, we found that the Chrome browser sometimes have some limitation. Okay, that's all for my session. Thank you, everyone.
All right. Thank you, Kay. I know we have a little bit of time. So I will actually just see if I can show you one more quick demo. to demonstrate what we just seen. So as you know, the World Cup will come to the USA, Canada, and Mexico next year. Any football fans out there? Should I say soccer? I don't know why they call it soccer, maybe because they wear socks, I don't know. But everywhere around the world we call it soccer. So there was one thing while I was building this application that I couldn't do. If I go to the teams that have qualified so far, I wanted to show a flag. I couldn't show this flag until now, until we received Arcade. Essentially, in our let's see, let me pull it up real quick. In my data, I have an ISO field for the country code of that country, but it was uppercase. But I want to use a flag that is hosted somewhere online, and it requires lowercase. So now with Arcade, with a very simple query, I can just get this country code, I make it lower, and I return the PNG, and now I can show the flag. So those are small things where before I had to jump through hoops to make this happen, but now I can. The other thing I wanted to show you is conditional formatting. Okay? So in my list, for example, there are games. There's over 100 games. Some of them already have teams assigned to them because we know that the host nations, Mexico, USA, and Canada, are already qualified. The other games, they will be drawn next year. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to make those cards that have games white and everybody else grayed out. So what I can do is in my states, I can go to a dynamic style. I enable dynamic style. I go to this little cog and I said, if the home team is set, then create a dynamic style with the condition if value is blank and make the fill gray. So the result of this small little conditional formatting is that I have a list with white or highlighted countries that have games and all the other cards are gray. Small little detail, I think in my opinion, big change. So with that, I know we have a couple of minutes for questions. Do we have any questions in the audience? Thank you. So the question is, if I create my organizational shared theme, will this consume credits? No, it doesn't. That's an admin setting that you can set, that you actually should set, excuse me, and it will be picked up by applications such as ArcGIS Experience Builder, does not consume credits. So the question was on a near me widget. As soon as I identify a point, the near me widget places a pin on top of the map, but it has a specific symbol and it overlaps other potential features. The question was, can this pin be changed? The answer is no, and as far as I know, it's not on a roadmap. But I will take a note of it and I will let the product team know that, that this could be an enhancement request, so thank you. And so for anybody else that has any good ideas or enhancement requests, please see us at the Experience Builder Showcase Island and let us know. We take note, we enter them into the system, and then we keep track of them.
Different responsive layouts. Is there any customization with those media queries at all?
So the question is, right now when we design for mobile devices, the only options are auto or custom. And those are currently the only options. There are no media queries that you can enter. There's no min width or max width settings that are available as of now. And as far as I know, they're not planned. And I think it's actually, I would love to see them, but it's a very advanced functionality that I think would overload many builders that are not as advanced. Thank you for the question. So I go over here and then over there. So the question was, will the slides be available after the session? Yes, the slides and the recording will be available for you for download after the user conference. So the question is there any advice to consistently brand the themes across light and dark themes? So I think what I've shown you is the best advice I can give you as of now, but I would like to speak to you maybe after the session, and maybe we can dive deeper, or we can talk at the Expo Showcase Island, and we can dive deeper into a demonstration. So yeah, thank you. Yeah, so the question is, when adding data, such as instead of a feature layer or a web map, but through using Arcade, what's the advantage of doing it through Arcade? And so my best answer would be that you can retrieve data from multiple layers. So for example, if you wanted to if you had like related tables, you could bring those in as one data source. So that would be one use case that I can think of as of now. I'm sure there's more. Since this is new, I haven't really experimented with it. But the advantage is that you can modify the data as it comes in versus having a static source such as a feature layer available to you. Okay, so there's another question in the back. I hope I can hear you. So that's a very interesting question. The question was, do I have any recommendation in terms of budgeting? How much time should I allocate or budget if somebody would ask me today to build an application for them? I can tell you that a rough estimate between 40 and 80 hours might work, but there's obviously lots of factors that depend on it. Data availability, where you get the data from, whether you need to do ETL, what's the system architecture, how complex is the application, is it one application, multiple, is it one page, multiple pages? So you need to look into the requirements to estimate, but for a rather, let's call it straightforward application, such as this one, estimate between 40 and 80 hours, depending on your skill level, is a good estimate. Yes. So the question was, are there any resources to learn ArcGIS Experience Builder? Yes, in specifically using, related to this session. Okay, so yes, there's this session. There's a book which is an amazingly fantastic book, not because I've written it, but it has lots of the learnings and experience from my work in it. I had co-authors that same thing, that brought in their experience from different aspects. Thomas, he works for the Learn team, so he writes Learn tutorials, which is another source that you can look at. There's a free poster, and then there's conferences. You can always see us, you can reach out to us. I'm happy to give you my business card, so if you have questions, you can reach out to me. So the question is, will there be a PDF or ebook option for the book? Right now, the book is, it actually will be released at the end of July. It's only available for sale right here. I don't believe there will be, right? It's really print only, but I will double check. So if you want to give me your contact after the show, I'm happy to follow up with you. All right, so we are on time. I need to apologize for anybody that was online. We had technical difficulties. We couldn't take your questions. But anybody in the audience, I wish you a wonderful rest of your conference. Thanks for attending. Thank you very much.